a lot of my customers are now coming to me and asking me after going to the exhibition, where should we go? So it's that exchange which is continuing, which is, the most rewarding and the most exciting part of creating the exhibition.
Hi everybody, you're with Dani Valent and you're listening to an episode of Dirty Linen. Thanks so much for sharing your time with me. Always great to hang out and chat about food, and today is no exception. We are heading to Order Up, which is an exhibition. Order Up, a city fed by many cultures, is an immersive installation at the Immigration Museum in Melbourne. It's where you can experience the soul of hospitality as represented by order dockets flapping in the breeze, the order dockets from 33 restaurants of all different cultures. It's a collaboration between Melbourne-based artists Saade and Redmond Stevenson, and I am really thrilled to be inviting them onto the show to have a chat. I love the exhibition. It is immersive. It is really beautiful and heartfelt. So welcome, Daniel and Redmond.
Thank you, Dani. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Daniel, why don't you start? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So I'm a third generation Melbourne restaurateur. So 70 years of Melbourne hospitality in my family, starting with my grandparents who came from Lebanon in 1950 and opened up a little milk bar in Brunswick in the mid-50s to today, still in hospitality. From my grandparents to my parents and aunties and uncles to now me and my cousins, and I've been at my venue now in Richmond, Niche-on-Bridge, for 15 years, actually. So born into hospitality and absolutely love it, and it's my labour of love.
Well, I'm glad that it's still love, because I'm sure the labour is definitely there. Redmond, what about yourself? How do you and Daniel join together for this project?
Yeah, so Dan and I have been friends since we were 5 years old, actually. So well over 30 years now. So we've grown up together. And I've basically, come to love hospitality partly through Dan as well and his family's experience in it. I come from a big family that loves food, and so I guess that's where my passion lies as well. But professionally, I'm work in the advertising industry as a director of photography at a production company. And so I'm like a filmmaker by trade, and that's where I apply my skills. But have over my career worked on quite a few cooking shows and filming them, editing them, traveling around with them. So I've been lucky to sort of, combine those passions. And this again with Dan, not only is we're super close friends, but we're also both super passionate about hospitality, food, representing Melbourne and all the different people in it. And so this is it was a dream really to be able to do this.
Red, you mentioned you were friends since you were 5 years old. What do you remember of being immersed in Daniel's family's world of food and hospitality?
Well, Dan can speak to this, but his family always, his mum was a baker. And so one of my strongest memories is Dan coming and sharing these elaborate, over-the-top cakes that, that no normal person could bake. It's just it takes such expertise. And I was just who is this guy? Where is he getting these cakes from? Who's his dealer? But it was his mum. And so I think those, for me, he would bring them and he would share them. And I think that was a super strong memory, because it's again, it was just that hospitality. I mean, in terms of he was just willing to share and bring these things. And you could safely say he was very popular because of that. So I think at that, and then always visiting his house, there was always food. You're always welcome to come in. you just sort of felt like part of the family. It's like a big open house situation. You walk in, you'd always get food. You'd always be well fed, too well fed, but wasn't a problem. In my case, I was happy to eat, and yeah, I mean, growing up, that was basically the story, and I feel like, as our relationship evolved and we got older, we just loved to go and eat together. And then even as I was in my early 20s, I worked for Dan for a bit at one of his first cafes. So, we've been intertwined for a long time.
We've done it all, basically.
I love it. And Daniel, it's one thing to have a family business and sort of be embedded in hospitality, but it's another thing to reflect on it in the way that you do. You certainly do in this exhibition, but, your, I suppose, reflection on the industry predates that. Tell me about the journey from, hospo kids, where it's always going on to, knowing that you wanted to work in the business and then reflecting on it as an artist.
The family dynamic on Dad's side, which is the hospitality side, in Dad's generation, five brothers, two sisters, so all working together in hospitality at one stage. And my mum would host Thursday night dinner, so there would be up to 30 people at my house, friends and family, and the discussion was always around hospitality and, work and business. So I sort of absorbed all that, and just going into the restaurants as a kid, being exposed to people from all different cultures was the start of the curiosity, because I would be listening to stories from my father and my uncles and aunties about past staff members from another part of the world that had gone on to make a life in Melbourne, some of them in hospitality, others in other industries, but the connection being that their starting point was hospitality. And you could almost at times, map different groups of migrants based on who was working in hospitality at the time. And I was exposed to that from a young age, and my family always spoke about it, being proud that they'd come from, somewhere else, another part of the world, and they were able to help people integrate into Melbourne through employment and, just that general nature of hospitality. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And tell us about the origins of Order Up. How did you start to think about expressing this love of hospitality in an exhibition?
I think it came about because I'm, like a lot of hospitality people, we're entrepreneurial, we're creative, and we always seem to have like a million ideas. Most of them don't actually get off the ground. And this idea, it sort of came over me probably 10 years ago, which was around the dockets, the handwritten dockets representing a culture, and the fact that Melbourne and the hospitality scene has been enriched by immigration. And it was always, a key talking point and a feature, and, something that Melburnians are very proud of is our hospitality scene. And yes, this idea of how can we show this, how can we celebrate it through a different avenue, being, an exhibition or an art piece. So that was 10 years ago, 2024 February. It comes back into my mind and I try to pursue it. And in pursuing it, I start chatting to Red, and Redmond's, we love hospitality, we love creating. So we decided that we would approach the Immigration Museum with a very simple written word submission of this idea. And they came back to us and said, we must meet you, and from that point, And I must say that with ideas, if you get a little bit of momentum or, someone else shows enthusiasm, it does push it along. It makes it become realer. And they did push it along. They were enthusiastic about it. We went to the meeting. They designated a space. We spoke about the vision of it and, what we wanted to do, bringing in the video, the audio, and trying to create something that was a little bit overwhelming for the audience and to give the audience a perspective or an appreciation for how many cultures are active through hospitality in Melbourne.
So just to bring people in, I guess, a bit to the experience of the exhibition. I mean, I sort of knew what it was, but I was still so surprised and struck by it when I walked into the room. So there are, I don't know how many. Do you actually know how many dockets there are?
2,500.
Okay, so there are 2,500 dockets from 33 different restaurants, and they're displayed around the room on order rails. And you're just instantly drawn in, like, to look at them up close, to be overwhelmed by the scale of it. It's very, I suppose, it's very immersive, but it's also very particular. And then at either end of the room, there are projections of videos that take you into these restaurant kitchens and dining rooms and sort of, immerse you in that world of hospitality in a different way. What have I left out, guys?
Did you say audio? Like there's like the soundtrack, the sort of soundtrack of all the restaurants as well. And then the kitchen pass where you can sort of leave your recommendation via like our custom docket book, and you can also take one and visit all the restaurants.
Yeah, tell us more about that, Redmond, because I actually just showed my friend my little docket that I brought home before, and yeah, she loves it because why wouldn't she? But just explain that a bit more.
Well, yeah, so in the middle of the space there is like a stainless steel kitchen pass with order rails as well. And in collaboration with the museum, we designed a custom docket book pad. It lists out, it's got some sort of blank space, and then it's got all the restaurants that participated and their culture that they're representing. And so the idea behind that was that we really wanted people to, be drawn into the space, get invested, and then we wanted them to do what it's one of my favorite things to do, and I could talk endlessly. I feel like we could have a whole podcast on this, but it's just recommendations. So it's just like sharing. It didn't have to be recommendations, but that's where the inspiration came from, where it was like, we just wanted people to be like, oh, we're inspired by this this space and what they've been sharing with us. Now we wanted them to share something that they've experienced that was new to them, that was old to them, that was precious, that was like a beautiful memory, a dish. It didn't have to be Melbourne, but that was sort of the vibe. So then basically we had that docket book, and people started participating from the opening of the exhibition, and we've been collecting those dockets of everybody's. There's people have been writing poems, stories, love letters. There's been a lot of kids through, so there's some pretty immature references as well, like students, and but then there's also people have been taking them and they've been using them to go and do a food tour of Melbourne, this unofficial food tour of Melbourne that we've essentially got. And so they've been checking it off. Daniel's got some good stories of customers of his that have, they're getting together as a group, and they're going around, and they're going week by week or month by month, going to each of the places. So I feel like it serves, like that space and that sort of concept, even that docket book has served so many different purposes and ideas and inspirations for us and hopefully other people too.
That's great. You've really created a forum and a platform for these restaurants to become, I suppose, the Order Up family. And how wonderful to know that people are going around on these kind of food tours. Daniel, what did you learn about hospitality by putting the exhibition together and having it out there in the world?
I think the main thing that we took from it, and that I took from it, is that hospitality operators, the ones that are truly invested and they love it, they are just everyday people that are hospitable, very, very passionate. The one thing that sort of stood out was that you had to be passionate. So everyone that's participated is so passionate about what they do, about sharing their culture. And that's what, over and above the food, the environments that they're creating in their venues is all driven by passion. And without it, the venues, they're sort of missing something. And we did have some venues that wanted to participate, or we approached, and it didn't come to fruition, because we would go and film and there was no passion, we couldn't feel the soul. And it actually translates on film and audio, and, the passionate venues were the ones that were, we would mic up the chefs and the wait staff, and they were sharing their stories with us. They were telling us, about, if they were multi-generational restaurants, about the history of the restaurant or certain dishes that they had an affinity to, and you could feel it. And obviously we came with a lot of passion. So it's that passion piece that keeps hospitality running, and that passion to want to serve people is still definitely very true and, exists. But sometimes I feel that parts of hospitality can be, like people, they want to, they're popular restaurants and, there's a bit of a status thing. But behind all of that is just an operator, just someone that's actually looking to give part of themselves and just to be hospitable. And it that applies to every, layer of sort of venue in Melbourne, I think.
The idea of the handwritten dockets is very striking. I mean, tell me about the process of asking people to collect and hand over these food-stained, often crumpled scraps and pieces of paper, various levels of, just like a notebook or something more formal what were some of the responses that you got?
I think the idea behind this handwritten docket is that it's a person behind each docket. Someone is actually writing it. It's the lost, it's the lost art of handwriting, and for us, it was the last chance to grab and archive, this handwriting, and to show through native languages as well the cultures that are present. Each docket, the food or the language either represents the culture. The reaction when we asked, most people sort of understood it, but didn't really understand it. But because they're hospitality people, they're happy to go with the flow and just see where it ends up, because to them it was going to end up in the bin, and we've created something more with it. We've given it some significance, but there was a couple of false starts where they collected them, but then someone threw them out because they thought they were rubbish. But the more stains they had on them, the more excited we were.
The ones that went into the bin would actually have been gold once you got them out of the bin. I mean, yeah, there is a nostalgia to it because, we're in a world of, iPad ordering and QR codes and the handwritten docket, while still common, is not ubiquitous. Did you feel, maybe Redmond, you can pick this up, like did you feel that you were capturing something fleeting, capturing something that we're not going to be able to experience in the same way in short years?
Yeah, I mean, like just from the sense of collecting something, I mean, I guess that's like what, art in a way is just like you're a collector of things. And I felt like we had this special moment, this timestamp, especially coming out of sort of COVID times when everything, like there was a big push for QR codes that, yeah, like say Daniel said, that it's the lost art of this handwritten docket. Like as we have gone to all these places, some aren't still around. And I guess the next place to open up may or may not choose to, use handwritten dockets. They might use a digital system, or they might use a combination of both. But like I think what we really were struck by was it was a really beautiful way to represent, it was like a timestamp. It was a capture of what Melbourne is, what Melbourne was in like 2025, and who existed in that space in these restaurants, and you got to see all their personalities. When you go up into the exhibition and you go and you inspect a docket, you can see. We like to talk about the dockets like they tell a story, because it's like. You can see hand scrawls, like a really messy docket. And, that you can imagine might have been at a really busy point of service. And, there's shorthand, there's little notes, smiley faces to each other. And then there's like really, really delicately and beautifully, written out dockets. And that was, it's just like the different personalities and the different styles and different languages. It's just such a incredible range of ways to communicate what goes on in hospitality. It is, and that was one thing when we collected the dockets. It was that one connector. That was like the one point that connected everybody in that place at that one time. So it was like the customer is there. They're basically giving their order. The waiter is there taking that order. Then the kitchen staff are there, and it passes between all these people, and it is this sort of one linking point to one experience of 2,500, but you don't know how many experiences are on just one docket. So it's just like you kind of, as you go down the rabbit hole of thinking about all those things, and then you go through the exhibition and you inspect each docket, you think, how did that sauce stain get on it? Or like, why is that ripped and torn or crumpled up? Or, there's such a range of things. And so it was very fun.
Yeah, so well said. I bet it was fun. Tell us a bit more about the video and the audio, because I think they really do amplify this, this inspection of the docket, and then you're sort of really in the world visually and orally. Tell us about creating the films and the audio tracks, Red.
Yeah, so, well, I'll get Dan to talk to it as well, but the process of that was, Dan, when we first started talking, we were like, we wanted this space to, you wanted to make a connection with the dockets you see, and we thought that that moving images would be a great way to do that. And in accompaniment to moving images, we wanted a soundscape. Didn't have to necessarily be like a documentary, but it was like we wanted something to, you could sort of link between. You could go in and say, that docket might be from that place or that place. So the process of capturing the video was going to each restaurant. It was mostly because we both got full-time jobs, we would finish work, we would meet up, and then we would go to these restaurants and we would film for a couple of hours. And these places, the venues that participated would graciously let us into their space during operation, usually when it was really busy. And we would be in the kitchen bothering them, behind, but everybody yelling backs and behind. And I had the cameras everywhere. Dan was operating cameras as well. We would give these little lav mics to, we would basically throw them out to like 4 or 5 staff members at a time. Wouldn't know where they would go because they'd just sort of disappear off as wait staff or kitchen staff. And we'd be capturing them speaking, either taking orders or speaking, taking orders in English or language that was native to them or that they knew. And then the kitchen staff were also yelling, and you could hear all the cluttering and clanging of pans and stuff. So that was we did that basically over 33 times, and it was about trying to take people in the exhibition. There's a one screen which is more front of house sort of vision, and then the other screen is more sort of back of house kitchen. And we just wanted to take people to both those spaces because those are the spaces mainly of restaurants. And as you walk into the exhibition, it's almost like we had an amazing sound designer who also helped us. Like as you walk in, you see the front of house, you see the back of house playing at the same time, and you hear the vision as well. You hear the audio overhead. So it's like you get sort of transported into the space, which is really fun. I don't know. It's just we thought that would be a great way to illustrate what it's like in both spaces, in the whole in the venue or the restaurant, and you can just hear all the different elements, see all the different dishes, the processes of cooking, and how the restaurant operates.
Yeah, you can feel it. It's interesting for me. I found it like the sort of stillness of the dockets and the movement on either side was I suppose there's pockets of calm and things that have already happened, and then there are things that are going on in the moment. So it was an interesting, I guess, temporality to consider as well. Dan, what was it like for you to be in and out of 33 different Melbourne restaurants, catching the vibe and capturing it for the show?
I mean, I was very comfortable. It's my environment. I was very happy that, my belief that, hospitality people are hospitable is true. And, we had a great time approaching all the restaurants, trying to get them to participate, and 30-second elevator pitch to get them involved, and they really did connect with the essence of what the exhibition's about and what it's celebrating. So we had an amazing time. I mean, we went to kitchens that have never been filmed. Supper in Chinatown. I don't recall any footage of the kitchen being released, publicly, and we got permission to do that. And, that's a really iconic restaurant, and we'd personally spent a lot of time there over the years. And, we had Redmond in the middle of the San Telmo kitchen with the open, coal, around 6 chefs, and he's in the middle of this kitchen, and they're facilitating all this. They're letting us just do what we need to do. So it was an amazing experience. And then when you look back and you hear all the audio doesn't surprise me because there's always cheeky comments and things, and obviously we did not include those, but there's just so much, there was just so much personality across all these different restaurants. And we actually had a minimum of 300 individual contributors to this exhibition through the teams that were working in the venues. So it is pretty incredible to sit back and think that we've managed to get that many people from so many different parts of the world into one space and create something that is cohesive and has a meaning. So yeah, it was incredible, and it was nice to talk shop as well, and naturally the managers and the owners of these restaurants are wanting to know how my business was going, what my thought was of the whole landscape. So a bit of that sort of shop talk is always enjoyable as well. And then we ate, we got, fed really well, which was, always a nice little bonus. But yeah, the connection's fantastic. And as Redmond had mentioned before, a lot of my customers are now coming to me and asking me after going to the exhibition, where should we go? And I'm sending them to restaurants and telling them, you have to have this dish, and, you can't go there without eating this. And so it's that exchange which is continuing, which is, the most rewarding and the most exciting part of creating the exhibition.
Yeah, I love those webs of connection. If you think about like this whole project, you thought of it 10 years ago, Dan, what's the overall motivation? Like, why do you do what you do? Why have you created Order Up?
I think I love to create, but me and Redmond's actually a very, 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 very good chef. So he'll call himself a cook, but he's a chef, and he's the most passionate person that doesn't work in the industry. His fridge looks like a laboratory. He's playing around and making all these different concoctions. So we have always tried to do something together, whether it be originally trying to do a pop-up around Redmond's food, but we haven't got there yet. But we're always talking and, talking about ideas, and obviously Red's got the cinematography background. So I don't know, I just had this urge to try and, create something to try and have a contribution outside of an actual business. The interaction with the customers in hospitality, and I've been where I am for 15 years. So it is a personal connection, but at the end of that conversation, it's still, what would you like today? Like, what can I get you today? So it's still a transaction, whereas this is something just led by passion that is the conversations I would have with my customers anyway about restaurants and all these different things, but it was just a way to articulate it in a forum that wasn't that exchange of, food and bev.
Mm. And Redmond, what about you? Like, what's the motivation for creating this?
I think again, Dan was a huge motivating factor. He's such a creative, inclusive and kind person that I think seeing his passion, and he said this before, it's like, yeah, we've always talked about doing something. We've always talked about telling stories about hospitality, because that's what I grew up on with Dan, is hearing the stories from his family's hospitality and restaurant ventures. And they're always good. He's a great storyteller. He's an amazing storyteller. And I think that's what really inspired me is Dan's passion, his motivation, his get up and go, that he really, in my industry, he'd be called like an amazing producer, because he does it. If something needs to happen, he gets it done. And he does it well, but he does it with such grace and confidence. And yeah, it's really like that. That was something that I was like, well, we're great friends, but I know that we're going to be great partners in this. That was a huge motivation for me. And I thought, I really wanted to honor his idea the best I could. And also, we feel so passionate about that, Melbourne's hospitality scene, that I think we wanted to make this it's corny, but like a love letter to Melbourne, and give it our all, basically.
So you've talked a lot about recommendations for restaurants, so I feel like you better each leave us with something. So tell the listeners, like, one restaurant. We know you don't have favorites, but just like the first one that comes to mind, like, where should they go and what should they order? You can start, Dan.
We shouldn't be giving the recommendations because it's not fair, but I think it's not fair, but that's okay. I think there's a few. I mean, like, supper in for that, like late night Chinese, the crispy pork is like my favorite dish. And then Kababi in Sunshine was, really beautiful. Hamed's story, the whole team there, the way he's doing the traditional Persian kebab is really, really amazing. And the way that he's transformed this space in like a warehouse industrial area in Sunshine, it's a real destination venue, and it's definitely worth travelling to. That's probably one of our most recommended places because it's something different. It's out of the way. So I think it people, when they go there and, have the saffron tea, it's just really quite special. And, me and Hamed are from similar backgrounds. So, some of the food was recognisable and transferable, which is always, amazing to see. But, then like everything, Abla's, obviously, I love Abla's. There's just so many.
There are 33, in fact. What about you, Red? I know it's hard to pick, but yeah, just sling us a couple of recs.
Well, yeah, we can't play favourites, but Abla's was, definitely one of mine. Just being 3 generations and hearing the stories about their grandmother and mother, Margaret and Abby, talking about how she used to shell trim the beans for the foulia by the window, and that was really special. They also gave us a bit of off-menu, super sticky and caramelized chicken wings, which was, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but they were good. But then also one of my favorites was Akwaaba, which is on Fitzroy Street in St Kilda, and Ahmed and his mother, Noura, Noura, his mum, is in the kitchen with him and they're both cooking, and they just like, I helped them one time when we were filming. Noura got me to help, load the beef into this chili sort of, it's very spicy Ghanaian beef stew. And it's just so rich and full of flavour. It is the most delicious thing. It's very spicy. So that's what I'd get from Akwaaba. I don't know. Warunga Gus, which is a Balinese restaurant, which is 3 generations. That was like the Bubby Goulding from there was just, that's another highlight. You could go on and on and on. I won't, but yeah.
I love all those places and all those recommendations, and all the other restaurants are worth visiting as well. So Order Up is on at the Immigration Museum, which is in Flinders Street in Melbourne. And the exhibition is on every day until when, Dan?
We are running, actually, we got an extension, so we're running till the 10th of May now.
Amazing. So everybody get down there. It's really great. Grab a docket and start your own eating adventure around Melbourne. Daniel and Redmond, thank you so much for chatting to me today. And congratulations on bringing the exhibition to life. It's a beautiful way to experience the art and passion behind hospitality. So thanks for doing it.
Thank you, Dani. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks, Dani. Really appreciate, really honoured to be on the podcast. So thank you very much for having us.
It's such a pleasure. This is Dirty Linen. I'm Dani Valent. We bring you untold stories from the food world. Real, raw, unafraid, hopeful. We're driven by a belief that food provides endless opportunities for learning, connecting, and creating the world we want to live in. Delicious, open-hearted, meaningful. If you know a story that needs telling, get in touch. Write to dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au. Thank you for listening.
This